Munatira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Manda Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnu Pai Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya Shutarashita Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagvatam ki, Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the Simnavaris, all glories to the Simnavaris, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milita Mnena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyareva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindiki Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Sapasha Astam Strindrishtva Purushan Atidarunan Vakratundan Udhvarumna Atmanam Netum Agatan Hari Sapashahastam Strindrishtva Purushanatidarunan Vakratundan Udhvarumna Atmanam Nitum Agatan Sapashahastam Strindrishtva Purushanatidarunan Vakratundan Udhvarumna Atmanam Nitum Agatan Dure Kridanaka Saktam Putram Narayana Hwayam Plavitena Swarino Chair Ajuha Vakulindriya. Word to word meaning Saha. That person Ajamil. Pashahastan. Having ropes in their hands. Trin. Three. Drishtva, seeing, Purushan, persons, Atidarunan, very fearful in their features, Vakratundan, with twisted faces, Urdhvaromna, with hair standing on the body, Atmanam, the self, Netum, to take away, Agatan, arrived. We'll stop there since that's what's on the board. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation Ajamil then saw three awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces, and hair standing erect on their bodies. With ropes in their hands, they had come to take him away to the abode of Yamaraj. When he saw them, he was extremely bewildered, and because of attachment to his child, who was playing a short distance away, Ajamil began to call him loudly by his names. Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayana. Purport: a person who performs sinful activities performs them with his body, mind, and words. Therefore, three order carriers from Yamaraj came to take Ajamil to Yamaraj's abode. Fortunately, even though he was referring to his son, Ajamil chanted the four syllables of the Harinam Narayana. And therefore, the order carriers of Narayana, the Vishnudutas, also immediately arrived there. Because Ajamil was extremely afraid of the ropes of Yamaraj, he chanted the Lord's name with tearful eyes. Actually, however, he never meant to chant the holy name of Narayana. He meant to call his son. Understand? Simple. Any questions? Because the Yamadutas look very scary. So when Ajamil saw them, he cried, naturally. And he also knew where they were going to take him. Someone who looks that fierce, you know it can't be anything good. He knows he's going to hell. So he felt afraid. And Prabhupada's mentioning also because although he performed unlimited sinful activities, they're categorized in three divisions: sinful activities with one's mind, sinful activities with one's speech, and sinful activities with one's body. So because of that, three Yamadutas came to take him. And there were fierce ropes there. They themselves looked very fierce. And so he began crying out of fear. And because of his great attachment to his son, then he called out to his son, whose name happened to be Narayana. At the time of death, whatever you're attached to, that is what's going to appear in the mind. Therefore, one should become attached to Krishna. So just in case there's an untimely death, God forbid, but suppose that it happens, because of attachment to God, you will remember God also at the time of death. But if you attach to family life, wife, home, children, hearth, home, etc., then you will remember that at the time of death, only natural. Then you will get that destination. So he was attached to his son, like any ordinary materialistic person. So he called out to his son, who was situated nearby, Narayana. And because Narayana, four syllables are there, Narayana. So four of Lord Narayana's servants came, and they rescued him from this fearful and bewildering situation. Yeah.
In Bhagavad Gita, it said, Neha Bikramana Shasti Pratavaya Navidite. That even when he engages in little devotional service, they're saved from the worst type of fear. Yes. So previously, Ajamil was a Brahmin. He certainly was carrying out his Brahminical duties, most likely, I think, a devotee. So how do we understand that he wasn't going to be saved? I mean, in the end, because he called Narayan, he was saved. But how do we reconcile that?
Well, the reconciliation actually is his pastime. Parashar Maharaj asked a question how a person can be saved from going to hell, which is the reaction to so many sinful activities in the mode of ignorance. So then, to give a case example, Shukadeva Goswami said by bhakti, one can be saved. Sakre mana Krishna padara vindayo niveshitam, even if one once takes the shelter of Krishna, then he won't have to see the Yavadutas. Even in the time of dreaming, he won't have to see them. So then to give an example of that, this pastime is actually being told. Now we'll come to find out in chapter 3, apparently this is the first time this had happened. So after this, the Yamadutas knew never again to go and bother those who are taking shelter of Narayana, the Supreme Lord. This will come up in chapter 3. So apparently this was the first time this little discrepancy came up, where someone had taken the shelter of the Lord, and they made a mistake of dragging him to hell. This will come up. Prabhupada will say in chapter 3. Otherwise, this is the example that of this Nehapi Kramanashosti verse that you're quoting. That because he chanted the name of Narayana, not only at the time of death he chanted the name of Narayana, throughout, from the time his son was born, he was chanting the name of Narayana. So the first time he chanted the name of Narayana, all sins finished. Then whatever he was doing after that was just like like a snake with its poisonous fangs removed. No effect was really there. From the first time he chanted Narayana, and then afterwards, I think this was already covered. Afterwards, he was chanting the name of Narayana. First time he chanted the name of Narayana, sins finished. Then after that, bhakti started to develop. And therefore, Prabhupada would say, even though he chanted the name of his son, he really was indicating his son, but also somewhere in that consciousness, Narayana was also there. So forth, Vishnunudas have come for him. So this is the example. Someone else? I think Alex wanted to say something.
You just said if at the moment of death we are attached to the God, we go back to the God, right?
Yeah.
But he was attached to his son.
Yeah.
So I was thinking you have to mean, when you say Narayana or Krishna, you mean,
You
the
mean
Supreme Personality of Godhead, but not just, like play with that name.
Yeah.
So how it works in this case?
When one chants the name of the Lord unintentionally means not to indicate the Lord, but to indicate something else. Like for example, someone may say Jesus in a dangerous situation or something like that. That is called as namabhas, the semblance of the name, the pure name. And when you chant and indicating the Supreme Lord with devotion to the Supreme Lord, then it's called as Shuddhanam, pure devotion, pure devotional chanting. So the effect of chanting namabhas is one can be saved from going to hell. One can be, and even by chanting namabhas is described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We can study this book, Harinam Chintamani, that one can even get liberation by chanting namabhas. One can come up to the liberated platform. So although he chanted a semblance of the name, Nama Abbas, Abbasa means a semblance of the name, he got the effect of that semblance, which also has potency, to be rescued from going straight to hell. Now, he didn't go straight to Godhead after this. The Vishnu Dutas saved his soul from being dragged to hell, but his subtle body was kept, or his soul was kept inside the body. And as the Bhagavatam class was going on between the Yamadutas and the Vishnu Dutas, questions and answers, he was very much paying attention because the fate of this Bhagavatam class was very important to him. Then when the Vishnu Dutas sent the Yamadutas away, he got a second chance. There's a book like that called The Second Chance. So he woke up in his gross material body, then he continued cultivating pure devotional service. And then at the end of his life, he actually went back to Vaikuntha. So he didn't go immediately. By Namabhas chanting, he got a second chance. And then that second chance he used to cultivate pure bhakti. Then he
Yeah, so he was attached to his son, so he stays with his son, right?
Yeah. Of course, after that, he was detached from his son because he's like, I'm about to go to hell. All right, son, good luck in life. I got to chant Harinam purely now to rest, save myself. Okay, he had a question. And
in the beginning of class, if someone's like too attached to family life, that they'll go wherever their mind is at the time of death. In this case, since a devotee in family life, his duty is to make his wife and his children God conscious. Technically speaking, it would suffice him being in the activities of maintaining the family because if he's doing his job as a grihasta,
but Ajamil was not doing his duty. Ajamil, 88 years old, having child. Understand? 88. That's sinful. Prabhupada has already described that. At the age of 50, according to Vedic culture, especially this time, 50 you're supposed to renounce sex life, go off to the forest, monopressed. Then if you're a Brahmana, eventually take sannyas. He did not do it. So he was not duty bound by anything. It was simply for his sense gratification. Understand? Simply sense enjoyment. So it wasn't his activities of maintaining the family was not because of duty, nor was he performing proper dharma to maintain them. He was plundering people. killing people, thievery, and all these sorts of activities. So that point is not in relationship to ajna.
Generally speaking, though, you can have some type of familial attraction to like son, daughter, wife,
Yes,
if the
Prabhupada says that
consciousness in
also.
mind of having them, in a God conscious situation where they're, suitable to be liberated after the time of death.
Depending on your attachment to Krishna.
Okay.
Sure, Prabhupada says this. If you go and read the purport to 13.8, I think 8 through 12, the section of verses in Bhagavad Gita dealing with the process of knowledge. So one of the items is one should not be attached to wife, home, children, and the rest. How is the language used? Is it like that? So Prabhupada says it's not that one should not have affection for these items. He said that is natural. But if they're not favorable for devotional service, one should not be too attached to them. So the idea, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sharanagati, he conceives of his family, he conceives of his home as Vrindavan Dham. He conceives of the members in the home as residents of Braja. He prays that I'm only maintaining the house because these are your servants and this is your home. Otherwise, I have no need to maintain the house. So his attachment is to Krishna. And he is seeing the whole atmosphere around him in relationship to Krishna. His home is the Dham. The family members are the Brijabasis, whom he is rendering service to, for the sake of pleasing the Lord and so on. So it depends on one's conception of the individuals in the house. If one is thinking, "It's my wife, my son," usually that conception is not very useful for elevation. That usually means, to say it nicely, you remain attached and material life continues.
How does one elevate to that platform? Well, not just mechanically speaking, but just through realization and knowledge, and also developing love of Krishna.
Well, that question can be, the question is, in short, how do we elevate in bhakti? Our elevation, of course, there's many ways that can answer this question. Simply put, to the degree, there's a yata yatatma pramikyate so, mat punyagata shavana bidanai tata tata pashyati vastu shukshma. Bhagavatam says this. To the degree one's atma is purified, atma paramikyate so, to the degree one's soul or consciousness is purified, mat punyagata shavana abhidanai, by the sadhana of hearing and chanting about Krishna. Mat punyagata means the pious narrations of Krishna. Tata tata, then to that degree, pashyati vastu shukshman, to that degree he can see the underlying substance behind everything, vastu. So you can see that underlying substance is, you don't see bodies, you can see the soul. And you can see the soul's relationship to Krishna, and you can see Krishna. Tata tata pashyati vastu shukshman. So, and the simple answer is by deepening our hearing and chanting about Krishna, then through the grace of bhakti and sadhu, and there's one other, bhakti, sadhu. Lord Chaitanya says three things. I don't remember: bhakti, devotion, sadhu, and Krishna. Krishna. Yes, the bhakti, sadhu, and Krishna. By the grace of these three, Mahaprabhu says this to Sanatana Goswami, Sanatana Shiksha. Then your consciousness will be elevated. If you're serious. This bhakti process in the previous verse to the verse I just quoted is compared to a fire. So by the fire of bhakti yoga, then your senses and your mind, intelligence will be purified. So the way you think of these things will change as a result of that purification. It's like if you stick an iron rod in fire, then that iron rod assumes the quality of fire. So by the fire of bhakti yoga, all of our minds, senses, intelligence, our consciousness assumes the quality of bhakti. And the quality of bhakti, the nature of bhakti is that it only thinks of Krishna. Bhajanti ananya manaso. One who has daivam pakriti mashrita, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Daivi pakriti means the internal energy of Krishna. So bhakti is the internal energy of Krishna. It's a transformation of the internal energy of Krishna. So when one keeps himself in the fire of bhakti yoga, then his mind, his senses, his intelligence, his consciousness assumes the nature of bhakti. Nature of bhakti, bhajanti ananya manaso. Ananya manaso means his mind knows no other. Ananya means no other. So ananya manaso, his mind knows no other. And he performs bhajan like that. So even when he's taking care of family and all these things, His mind knows no other but Krishna. And when he sees, oh, these are Krishna's devotees, so I have to serve them. Nice. He doesn't think, oh, this is wife. She is mine for my enjoyment. That's how you think. So when you say mine, you mean for my enjoyment. It is not like that's mine. It's what does it mean when you say that's mine? It means it's for my enjoyment, isn't it? He doesn't think these are my children. That they are for my enjoyment. My in-laws, that is for my enjoyment. This couch is for my enjoyment. This TV is for my enjoyment. Yes, so instead of seeing them as objects of the senses, you see them as objects of service because they are Krishna's. Krishna says everything is his in Bhagavad Gita. So one's consciousness has to be purified by the process of hearing and chanting. That's one way of answering the question. Another way may be, Rupa Goswami says that the way we begin bhakti is by getting some faith, shraddha. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. One needs the seed of bhakti, which is shraddha. And then after you get shraddha, then your shraddha has to evolve through the process of understanding the knowledge in the Shastras. Rupa Goswami says like this. So again, it's the same point by hearing chanting. First, you get the seed of bhakti. So that is the first investment of the guru. Just like if you have a business and someone puts an investment into your business, then it is your responsibility to expand the capital if you want your business to be successful, isn't it? So Mahaprabhu says that the guru plants the seed of bhakti, and then we have to sow the seed in our heart and water it through the process of hearing and chanting. So guru gives the first investment in the form of pure devotional faith. Then we have to expand the capital, which leads to prema by processes of hearing and chanting, which helps our faith to become, let's say, infused with knowledge. So faith should be well informed. It shouldn't just be like, I have faith in Krishna, and then we might become fanatics on the neophyte platform. But our faith should be well informed. And that getting that information is just a process of hearing. And then explaining also, that helps you assimilate it better. So, and by that way, our consciousness goes up. Then the way you see, all the objects around us will change. Otherwise, like you say, it'll just be mechanical. This is all Krishna's. Yes, this is not mine. And then you'll be enjoying it like anything. So we have to practice bhakti.
Someone asked me that, like, if you wear kantimala, then like you won't see the Yamadutas. And I've also heard that before, and I wasn't sure how to answer that question, because what if someone's performing sinful activities and he's still wearing kantimala?
Yeah, then what to speak of wearing kantimala? If he's once chanted Hare Krishna with a sincere heart, he may not have to see the Yamadutas. Of course, Krishna can do anything he wants. He can make the rules and he can break the rules also. Just like Tritaketu, he had prema for Krishna. He saw Krishna face to face, Sankarshan. We'll hear about this coming up. But he had to take birth as a demon. So Krishna can make the rules, he can break the rules also. Bharat Maharaj, she had bhava. That's also perfectional stage of bhakti. And he had to take birth as a deer. So Krishna can make the rules, he can break the rules also. So perhaps if his devotee is arrogantly thinking, I will not have to see the Yamadutas, he may give him a brief darshan just to show him I can do anything. But generally speaking, even if he was once chanted sincerely, he will not have to see. That's what we're hearing. Sakre mana Krishna padara vindayo niveshitam. If he once, sakret means even if one time he's done sincerely, then he will not have to see Yamadutas. That is okay. If he's on that doesn't mean he doesn't have to take birth again, though. You know, not saying the Yamadutas is one thing, but taking birth again is another thing. And that is a real problem. The real problem is not that one has to see the Yamadutas. That's not a problem. Even if one sees the Yamaduta, Narayana para sarve na kustashtana bipyati, swarga pavarganadakeshu, apitul yarta, tulya art darshina. Bhagavatam says, coming up 6th canto also, that the devotees of Lord Narayana, they don't care if they go to hell also. They say they see hell, heaven, and liberation all with equal eye, because they see service to Krishna is everywhere available. So the real problem of life, of course, is not that, oh, we might go to hell. That is not a problem. The real problem in life is repeated birth and death. Anityam sukam lokam imam prapya bhajasomam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, This verse, what is that? Mamhi parta vyapashitya yepi shu papayona yaha shriya vaishasata shudras tepi yanti parangatam. You know this verse? You know this verse? Bhagavad Gita? What's wrong with our Bhagavad Gita? Anyone reads Bhagavad Gita here? I'm the only one reading Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if what to speak of my devotees, previous verse he talked about apichat sudaracharo bhajatemam. Even my devotee does most abominable activity. If he's taking shelter of me, he should be considered sadhu. Shipram bhavati dharmatma, and very quickly he will become righteous. Shashwan shantam nagachati, because he's always repenting his foolishness and wanting Krishna also. So he becomes quickly righteous. He frees from all those sinful inclinations. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati. Therefore, Arjuna, you declare boldly that my devotee should never perish. Then Krishna says, what to speak of my devotee? Mami partavya pashrita. Even those who are papa yonayaha, very sinful persons, but they take shelter of me by taking shelter of my devotees. Mamhi partavya pashrita. Vyapashrita means taking shelter of me by taking shelter of my devotees. That's how the acharyas explain it. Striya Vaishutata Shudras, Tepi Yanti Param. Even they can get the supreme destination. So he's saying, what to speak of my devotees? But even those who are Papa Yona, they're not devoted. But somehow they take shelter of devotees, they will get the supreme destination. Then he says, Kem Punar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajashayastata Anityam Sukam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasumam. Then he says, so what to speak of the Brahmanas who are pious, or the saintly kings who are bhaktas? Certainly they will get the thing. That's another word. Certainly they will come to me. Anityam asukam lokam. You should know, otherwise you should know this whole atmosphere is anitya, ephemeral, and asukam, full of misery, not happy. So the point of saying that, Krishna is saying that for a pious brahmana and a saintly king, may actually enjoy the material world, materially speaking. But Krishna says anityam asukam lokam, that is all ephemeral and full of suffering also. Also for the pious brahmana and the saintly king. So therefore, imam prapya bhajaswam. Therefore, attain the spiritual world by my bhajaswam, by worshiping me. So the point is that going to hell is not the problem. The problem is repeated birth and death. Because the material world is a nityam asukam lokam. The world is full of misery and temporary. So, that's what we have to understand the problem is. The problem is not, oh my God, I've done something sinful, I have to go to hell. The problem is we have to take birth again because we're not Krishna conscious. Like that. Sure, why not? And actually Krishna defines hell in the Uddhava Gita. He says any place where there is a predominance of ignorance, that is hell. And any place where there's a predominance of the mode of goodness, that is heaven. So the age of Kali is also known as the age of ignorance. So we're in the age of Kali now. So it would be safe to say, per this understanding of hell that Krishna gives, that we're certainly in hell. And as the Kali Yuga goes on, of course, the mode of ignorance increases more and more. So then the environment will become more and more hellish. Yeah. Any other point? Question? No. Okay, I'll do one more verse since I only short paragraph is short. Okay. The next verse. Nishamya mniyamanasya mukato harikirtanam bharatur nama maharaja parashadha sarasapatan. My dear king, the order carriers of Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately arrived when they heard the holy name of their master from the mouth of the dying Ajamila, who has certainly chanted without offense because he had chanted in complete anxiety. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, Harikirtanam Nisham Yat Patan Katam Bhutascha Bharatra Nama Bruvata. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu came because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayana. They did not consider why he was chanting, so merciful. While chanting the name of Narayana, Ajamil was actually thinking of his son, but simply because they heard Ajamila chanting the Lord's name, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately came for Ajamil's protection. Hari Kirtan is actually meant to glorify the holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. That's like Alex's question. Ajamil, however, did not glorify the form, qualities, or paraphernalia of the Lord. He simply chanted the holy name. Nevertheless, the chanting was sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. As soon as the Vishnudutas heard their master's name being chanted, they immediately came. In this regard, Srila Vijayadwaja Tirtha remarks, Anena putrasneham antarena prachinadrishta bhalad ubhutaya bhaktya bhagavan nama sankirtanam kritam iti jnayate. Quote, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayana because of his excessive attachment to his son. Nevertheless, because of his past good fortune in having rendered devotional service to Narayana, he apparently chanted the holy name in full devotional service and without offenses. So this verse says that he chanted without offenses because he chanted simply due to anxiety. He wasn't thinking that, oh, by chanting this holy name of Narayana, I can be saved from going to hell. Therefore, let me go on sinning, and then I'll just simply chant at the end of life Narayana name, then I'll be rescued. Sometimes people think that way. Oh, it's so easy. Just remember Krishna at the time of death. I will go to Krishna. They think like that. But you will not remember Krishna at the time of death. You remember wife, home, children, everything but Krishna. Krishna will be last thing on the list, and as your life is flashing before your eyes, you might not make it to him. And you'll die thinking of all these things, and you'll get those things also. You'll get repeated birth and death. So he wasn't chanting thinking like that, oh, I've done some sinful activity, now the Yamadutas are coming for me, let me chant the name of Narayana to be rescued. He was simply chanting the name of Narayana because it almost spontaneously. Because when you're attached to something, your attachment manifests itself spontaneously, doesn't it? Sometimes we don't want to show what our attachments are, but spontaneously it comes out. And especially when you're dealing with a life-threatening situation, your mind will spontaneously go to whatever you're attached to. So when you're attached to children, for example, your mind spontaneously go to children. I remember I shared many times when I was walking on the street, my very first Mangalarti here, and 2 blocks down, someone pulled a gun on me. And in that time, I was actually chanting Hare Krishna with the beads and everything. But my mind was thinking of so many other things. I wasn't thinking of Krishna. I was thinking, oh, my mom's going to be upset at me because she told me not to come out late like this. And my brother, he's going to be sad because he likes me. And my friends, they're going to be sad because they like me too. And that's what that actually was going through my mind, and a whole host of other things. But Krishna was not going through my mind. I was new devotee, only a few months coming. Although I was chanting holy name, Krishna was not coming to the mind. Whatever you attach to spontaneously comes to the mind, especially in life-threatening situation. So Ajamil was in a life-threatening situation, and so he chanted the name of Narayana, indicating his son, spontaneously. It wasn't due to getting free from the reaction of sins and all that. Spontaneously, he was chanting the name of Narayana because he was attached to his son, whose name happened to be Narayana. So there was no offense on his part. It was just spontaneous attachment manifesting itself. But of course not rag, but material rag or material attachment. But because his son's name was Narayana, the Vishnu Dutas heard the name of their master. And they did not consider, oh, he is not calling our master. He is speaking of his son. Let the Yamadutas get him. They were thinking, oh, he is calling the name of our master. We must rescue him. As Krishna will later on say in chapter 2, verse 10 of this canto, that anyone who chants the name of the Lord, then the Lord thinks of him also. Because the name of the Lord and the Lord are not indifferent. So when one chants the name of the Lord, the Vishnus will explain that the Lord thinks of that person. Even though he's not thinking of the Lord, but the Lord thinks of that person simply because he's chanted the name. Such is the magnanimity of the Lord. He is so kind that even you are not thinking of him, you're thinking of so many other things, but he thinks of you simply because you've chanted the name of the Lord. Such is the prowess of bhakti. For those who take no interest in the Lord and they do other things like karma and jnana, then the Lord does not think of them. But one who chants the name of the Lord, even he does not think of the Lord thinks of him. That means that chanting the name of the Lord is itself bhakti. Understand? That means chanting the name, because Krishna only thinks of those who have bhakti for him. He doesn't think of other persons. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. He thinks of persons who do his bhajan with devotion. So that means that chanting the name of the Lord is itself devotion. However meager that devotion may be, but to chant the name of the Lord is itself bhakti. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says this. He said, what is bhakti? To chant the name of the Lord is bhakti. Simple. That's the answer he gave. It's there in his Upadeshavali. So, because the Lord thinks of that person, when Narayana chanted the name of Hari, then the Lord's servants, they also said, this person is dear to the Lord. So they came for the rescue. And they would stop the Yamadutas. Such is the magnanimity of the Lord, such is the magnanimity of the Lord's devotees. That has been explained here. This shows the power of bhakti. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. You remember when, like about 6 years ago, you remember a devotee, his name was Harum.
Yeah.
And you remember it was said that when he came out of his coma that he saw the Yamadutis.
Yeah.
Like what would happen in his case, because he since that time he has left his body later on down the line.
Yeah.
What do you think happened with his fate?
You mean at the time of death?
I'm talking about like when he came out of his coma, he saw the Yamadutis, and then after that he was sort of like he was convalescing, trying to get his health back.
Yeah.
And then he got ill again, and then he finally did. But previously he was a devotee.
Yeah, so there was a devotee here. He was in the Brahmacharya ashram. And he later left and he got involved in gang activity. So one time he was caught doing something improper. I don't know. I don't remember the details. And the police, I think, or some other gang members were chasing him. And he got shot in the back or something like that. And when he collapsed to the ground, he was like in an alley, and apparently he saw the Yamadutas. Maharaj Chaitanya spent every single day of the rest of that boy's life practically seeing him. So he had divulged this information to Maharaj Chaitanya Prabhu. And so he had saw the Yamadutas, it seems, in the alley. And I don't remember, we would have to ask Maharaj Chaitanya Prabhu if he chanted the names of Krishna at that time out of fear, just like one might say, Jesus, spontaneously out of fear or something like that. I don't remember. In any case, he woke up from the coma, and he took it as a second chance because he didn't die that time. Like I said, Krishna makes the rules, he can break the rules also. In order to help catalyze our quick ascent to him, he may create a very fearful situation in order to help us come to our senses. So therefore, that's why I said Krishna makes the rules, he can break the rules also. And when he breaks the rules, it's for helping his devotee, ultimately. So I already give an example, just like in the case of Bharata Maharaj or Chittiketu, he broke the rule. The rule is that if you take shelter from him, you won't have to see these fearful situations. And yet these devotees did end up in fearful situations as an animal and as a demon, respectively. But all of that was to augment or catalyze their quick ascent to Krishna. So also, Harun, he saw the Yamadutas apparently. And then after that, he, being very afraid, he wanted to get his life together. So, of course, he ended up, what do you call it, paraplegic? He was paralyzed from the neck down, very heavy. And Maharaj Chaitanya Prabhu used to go and see him, and he used to just read to him various things, Krishna book. They would chant together. He started coming to the temple when he could. And in that way, Krishna helped him. I mean, how nice that a devotee was seeing him daily. He was reading to him the shastras because he wanted to hear Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to hear about, after seeing the Yamadutas, this stuff is real. This is not a joke. And so he wanted to hear about Krishna. And so he did that for the rest of the remaining of his life before he passed. And so certainly he was blessed.
So it's probably favorable for him because
Yes.
his remaining time he tried to be absorbed in Krishna,
Yeah.
thought of Krishna.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why I say Krishna makes the rules. Krishna can break the rules also to help catalyze our seriousness and Krishna consciousness. Possible.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class. So the topic is of chanting the holy name, and in this incident, it was chanted accidentally. Now, on Harinam Sankirtan, we could see quite first-hand experience when performing the Sankirtan. It's very joyful, and it seems to purify the environment that we're in by practical experience, making it favorable to, distribute books or get people to dance, or it enlivens the mood and people are happy. Now, is the potency in Nam Japa, is it the same type of potency that is in Harinam Sankirtan, or are they two different potencies? Because I've heard that Harinam purifies the environment and it also purifies the people that participate in it, when Nam Japa actually just purifies the individual. But is the holy name potent enough that even if you're chanting Nam Japa, that it's actually purifying the environment?
The answer,
around
of course,
you?
is yes. Any holy name, the pure holy name chanted either as japa or as kirtan, has equal potency because the name is name. The name is Krishna. Abhinatam Namanamino. So even if one chants japa, then as a pure devotee, I'm talking about someone who's a pure devotee of the Lord. His Nam Japa and his Nam Kirtan equally potent because it's equally the name of Krishna. It is equally Krishna. It is not that the name in Japa is less Krishna and the name in Hari Kirtan is more Krishna for the pure devotee. But as far as sadhana is concerned, all of our acharyas are giving more weight to the Sankirtan of the Lord and more than Japa. As far as sadhana, especially as far as sadhana is concerned. Also, even in the spiritual reality, it's not like they chant japa. They do kirtan constantly, hearing chanting of the Lord's name. They're singing songs about Krishna and so on. So it's Hari Kirtan is the main thing in the spiritual world. So, and especially as far as sadhana is concerned, usually more weight is given to Hari Kirtan because it purifies the individual and others. This is usually the primary reason why the Hari Kirtan is given more weight. And also, Hari Kirtan has more power to captivate the mind and senses than Nam Japa does. Because to do Hari Kirtan requires a lot of sensual engagement. So in that sense, it's more powerful. But anything done by a pure devotee is equally potent. Like this conversation comes up in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where Gopal Kumar is hearing from the Vishnu Dutas, in fact. And they're trying to defeat, well, they're challenging a particular point that was made by the yogis on Tapaloka, who said that remembrance was greater than kirtan or any other sort of external thing. And so then the Vishnudutas countered that by saying, no, that is not the case. And then they clarified it by saying, okay, if that remembrance is done in perfection, then that remembrance is as good as Hari Kirtan, for sure. So anything done in perfection by a pure devotee is on the absolute platform. But as far as sadhana is concerned, they say smarna cannot be considered topmost. And japa is like nam smarna. It's a nam smarna practice. So when there's a question of sadhana, it doesn't have the same preeminence as Hari Kirtan. Because in order to do smarnam, your mind has to be very pure. See, to do kirtan, you can be pure or impure. Anyone can do kirtan. Pure or impure, anyone can chant Hari Kirtan. But for smarnam practices, the mind has to be very purified. How you will get that purity? You have to get that purity by Hari Kirtan and Shravanam and Sharanagati and Sadhu Sangha. So otherwise, one doesn't have the capacity to practice smarnam in a deep sort of way. So japa is like nam smarna. So as far as sadhana, kirtan is given preeminence over japa. Although the name is the name. The name chanted by the pure devotee is the name. It is the same Krishna. Yes and no. Generally, it's classified as a nam smarna practice. It's smarna, so it's classified as nam smarna. And that's remembering. Is if you chant japa loudly, it's called as kirtan. It is. I just read this. I forget where I read that. I read it in some Srila Bhaktisiddhanta essay, I think. Anyway, I'll look it up. If you chant, so someone's chanting Hare, sometimes like we see someone chants japa really loud, you have to leave the room. So someone chants, because that is kirtan. If you chant loudly, that is kirtan. Generally, japa is chanted upamshu. It means like a slight whisper, or in the mind. So it's a nam-smarana practice, generally speaking. If done loudly, it's kirtan. But still, that is not as powerful as sankirtan, chanting in the company of devotees calling for the Lord. As often I mention this point, that if you go to the Lord petitioning about your plight, and you all alone, he may not, why he should take you seriously? Who are you? But if you go with a whole village of people, and all of us are in the same difficult situation, and we're petitioning the Lord, then he has to take seriously. It's like the king. If you go to the king, one person, I'm having a problem, he may not take seriously. But if the whole village comes to the king saying we have a problem, then the king has to consider it seriously. Such is the power of Sankirtan. It's a group supplication and petition the Lord's mercy upon our fallen selves. So that has way more power than any single effort to petition the Lord's grace upon us. And so for these various reasons, Sankirtan in the company of devotees is given preeminence, especially as a sadhana. Anything else anyone would like to say? Yeah, Derek. Prabhu.
In this verse, it's saying that Ajamil chanted in anxiety.
Yes.
So
you can imagine.
Yeah. For us, it's a little bit more difficult to have this mood because the material.
Well, it wouldn't be if you saw the Yamadutas.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, since I'm not seeing the Yamadutas, the material energy is very strong, and we often forget that our position is rather futile.
So Krishna may have to help us. Yes, Krishna has to help. Actually, this is part of our helplessness, that we don't see the calamity of material existence. This is part of our helplessness. It's not only that we can't get out by Krishna Bhakti, but part of our being helpless is that we can't perceive the calamity of material existence. Despite hearing about it, despite even getting a little flavor of it, experience of the misery of material existence, part of being controlled by the modes of nature, helpless, is that we cannot appreciate the calamity of material life. And it usually takes something quite dramatic for conditioned souls to really turn their back on material existence. We may do the Bhoga Tyaga things, try to enjoy, frustrated, renounce temporarily, then again try to enjoy, frustrated, and renounce temporarily. But to completely turn your back on material existence, usually something has to happen very dramatic, combined with an attraction for Krishna, a taste for Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, this is part of being helpless, that we don't perceive the calamity of material life. Just like sometimes you may be driving in a bad neighborhood or something, and you would tell your friends, look, see what is happening. And it doesn't register in their mind. Nothing registers in the mind. Or sometimes you have like people go out for dinner, and they'll say, it's so sad what's happening to people in Africa. And they're, apparently feeling very sad about it. But they're living a lifestyle that is a cause of those people's suffering. They don't even make the connection. That in order for me to enjoy like this, they have to suffer. They don't make the connection. One of my godbrothers, he put up a blog one time saying, he said, I don't understand why everyone is so upset with George Bush. Thanks to Bush, we can have our computers and our videos and our bars, and and he gave a list of so many things, because a lot of the minerals that are required to create so many of these things. Is that a class? Is that a class? Are those the devotees? No, I'm just wondering if it's other devotees or. You can just ask them. What was I saying? Mentioning? Yes, my godbrother put up one blog there, and saying that we should actually thank George Bush because we're having so many of these opulences. Because in order to get the things that are required to create a lot of the computers and so on, iPhones and all these gadgets we like to play with, they require certain minerals which grow profusely only in certain parts of the world. And so you go there to start a war, get the minerals, get the resources required for this thing. Those people, they go out for dinner and they say that, we feel really bad for them, but they maintain a lifestyle that's the cause of these people's suffering. And we don't usually make the connection. So my point is that this is part of our helpless condition of being under the control of Maya, that even when the calamity of material life is staring us right in the face, we don't appreciate it. We don't perceive it even. What to speak of appreciate it? Even if we do momentarily get an insight, then Maya covers us. That's called what is that? There's a Presha Patmika Shakti and Avarana. Avarana Shakti. Avarana Shakti means the covering potency of Maya. The covering potency of Maya normalizes our existence in material bodies. So by this Shakti of Maya, one gets a cockroach body and he thinks this is normal. He gets a body in the warm stool, he says this is very good food stuff. He does not think that this is a horrible condition I'm in. He thinks this is very nice. This is called the Avarana Shakti, the covering Shakti. The covering Shakti normalizes our experience of material existence. It's something like, it can be compared to something like when you get on the train, sometimes it smells really, really bad. And as soon as you get on it, you're like, oh, I'm going to get on the next cart immediately. But then while it's going to the next station, you become used to the smell. So much so that you don't notice it anymore. And then you sit down. You were thinking immediately I would get off, but then you don't smell it. Oh, it doesn't. I don't smell anything now. Then you sit down. You become adjusted to the material atmosphere. This is called the Avarana Shakti of Maya. Then Preshapamika Shakti, another Shakti of Maya, is that if you shall get insight that something is wrong with this situation, this isn't right, then she will send some distracting to keep you engaged in a material existence. A sex object or some duality, some infamy, something to keep your mind distracted with futile things. And that way your insight is immediately covered over by absorption in the temporary. So in this way, Maya keeps us bound up. This is part of helpless conditioned life. We don't appreciate the calamity of material existence. So it usually takes something very dramatic and frightful. I mean, usually we would hope that we would gain enough intelligence just through the process of hearing and chanting that we can just take shelter of Krishna. But Krishna may have to help us out just in case we're reluctant to completely turn our back on Krishna or on Maya. Like we may be walking towards Krishna, but we're looking back at Maya. So in order to help us, keep our eye on the prize, then Krishna may have to help us out a little bit. Of course, that could sound scary, and that is scary if you're not surrendered to Krishna. But such is the mercy of the one that we're worshiping. That see, in the process of Jnana and karma, there's no person to help you really appreciate these things. So therefore, if these things come up in your heart, there's no one who's going to try to stop you. But Krishna is a person. And anyone who chants his holy name, he thinks of them. So he's going to help out. So he sees that you walking toward him, but we're facing Maya. Walking toward him, but facing Maya. So because we've taken some personal interest by accepting his bhakti, then he will help out, create a situation to help us turn our back on Maya completely. And if we're willing to be surrendered, I guess we'll be ready for that when it happens. If it has to happen on account of our excessive attachment. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay then. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya.